let us discuss another act, that is Charter Act 1833. Charter Act 1833, known as the St. Helena Act 1833 or Government of India Act 1833, was passed by the British Parliament to renew the Charter of East India Company, which was last renewed in 1830. Via this act, the charter was renewed for 20 years, but the East India Company was deprived of its commercial privileges, which it enjoyed so far. The provisions are like the end of East India Company as a commercial body. The British government had done a careful assessment of the functioning of the company in India. The charter was renewed for another 20 years, but it ended the activities of the company as a commercial body, and it was made a purely administrative body. With this, British were allowed to settle freely in India. India as a British colony. The Charter Act of 1833 legalized the British colonization of India, and the territorial possessions of the company were allowed to remain under its government, but were held in trust for His Majesty, his heirs and successors, for the service of Government of India. Governor General of India. This act made the Governor General of Bengal the Governor General of British India, and all financial and administrative powers were centralized in the hands of Governor General in Council. Thus, with Charter Act of 1833, Lord William Bentinck became the first Governor General of British India. Fourth member in Governor General in Council. The number of the members of the Governor General's Council was again fixed to 4, which had been reduced by the Pitt's India Act 1784 to 3. But however, certain limits were imposed on the functioning of the fourth member. For example, the fourth member was not entitled to act as a member of the council except for legislative purposes. For the first, these fourth members of the council was Lord Macaulay. The another provision is like split in Bengal presidency. The Charter Act of 1833 provided for splitting the presidency of Bengal into 2 presidencies, like presidency of Fort William and presidency of Agra. However, this provision was later suspended and never came into effect. Enhancement power of Governor General of India. This Charter Act of 1833 distinctly spelled out the powers of the Governor General in Council. He could repeal, amend, or alter any laws or regulations, including all persons, all places, and things in every part of British territory in India, for all servants of the company and articles of war. However, the Court of Directors, acting under the Board of Control, could veto any laws made by the Governor General in Council. Codifying the laws. The Charter Act of 1833 is considered to be an attempt to codify all the Indian laws. The British Parliament as a supreme body, retaining the right to legislate for the British territories in India and repeal the acts. Further, this act provided that all laws made in India were to be laid before the British Parliament and were to be known as acts. In a step towards codifying the laws, Governor General in Council was directed under the Charter Act of 1833 to set up an Indian Law Commission. India's first law commission. India's first law commission was set up under Charter Act of 1833 and Lord Macaulay was made its chairman. The other members of this commission were English barrister Cameron, MacLeod of Madras Service, William Anderson of Bombay Service, and Sir William Macnaghten of the Calcutta Service. Sir William Macnaghten did not accept the appointment. The objectives of the Law Commission was to inquire into the jurisdiction, powers, and rules of the Court of Justice policy establishments, existing forms of judicial procedures, nature and operation of all kinds of laws. It was directed that the Law Commission shall submit its report to the Governor General in Council, and this report was to be placed in the British Parliament. Indians in the government service. The Section 87 of the Charter Act of 1833 declared that no native of the British territories in India, nor any natural born subjects of His Majesty therein shall by any reason, only by his religion, place of birth, decision, color, or any of them be disabled from holding any place, office, or employment under the company. Thus, the Charter Act of 1833 was the first act which made provision to freely admit the natives of India to share an administration in the country. This act laid down the Court of Directors should nominate annually 4 times as many candidates as there were vacancies, from whom one should be selected by competitive examinations. The Charter Act of 1833 also provided the Haileybury College of London should make quota to admit the future civil servants. However, the system of an open competitive was not effectively operated in near future. In the migration of slavery. This act also directed the Governor General in Council to adopt measures to mitigate the state of slavery persisting in India since Sultanate era. The Governor General in Council was also directed to pay attention to laws of marriage, rights and authorities of the heads of the families while drafting any laws. More bishops. The number of British residents was increasing in India. The Charter Act of 1833 laid down regulation of establishment of Christian establishments in India, and the number of bishops was made 3. Now, let us discuss about the significance of the Charter Act of 1833. For many reasons, the Charter Act of 1833 was a watershed movement for the constitutional and political history of India. Firstly, the elevation of Governor General of Bengal as Governor General of India was a major step towards consolidation and centralization of the administration of India. Secondly, end of the East India Company was, as a commercial body, effectively made it the trustee of the crown in the field of administration. Thirdly, this act for the first time made provision to freely admit Indians into administration in the country. Indians could enter into the civil service, but the process was still very difficult. Fourthly, this act for the first time separated the legislative functions of the Governor General in Council from the executive functions. Also, The Law Commission under Lord Macaulay codified the laws. This is some of the ideas and thoughts, provisions, criticisms, analysis, assessment of the 1833 Charter Act. Thank you.